Hello peasants YouTube, welcome to another That's Just Joe video. My name's Joe and that's about it. So a little bit of Thor news, well, Chris Hemsworth news to be precise. He has come out just recently and on the Josh Horowitz show, Happy Sad Confused podcast, and spoken about his status as Thor and moving forward with the character. So as you can see, this article from the Direct, Chris Hemsworth wants to move on from Taika Waititi's Thor. And I thought that was a bit of a blunt headline. I thought it was a bit of a, you know, wanted me to click it, clickbait, that's the word I was looking for, and I was a bit like, I'm not sure, but the more you read into it, and I'll show the clip in a minute from Josh Horowitz, and he basically talks about wanting to reinvent the character, or reinvent the feel of the film, the story going forward, and it does very much sound like he wants to do something different in order for it to not get so saturated with the Taika Waititi-esque feel from the previous two Thor films. Now, Ragnarok was a huge success when it first came out, and people thought that was the way forward for this character and his place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because Marvel's been known that the majority of their films are very much the same template. There's not enough creative input from directors and other creatives alike when coming to make these films, but at the end of the day, you're making a product that has to fit a certain template set up by Kevin Feige and co. He had just previously talked about closing the book on the character in an interview he gave to Vanity Fair. So here he said, yeah, for sure, I feel like we probably have to close the book if I ever did it again. You know what I mean? I feel like it probably warrants that. I feel like it would probably be the final, but that's not based on anybody's told me any sort of plans. You have this birth of a hero, the journey of a hero, then the death of a hero, and I don't know, am I at that stage? Who knows? So he's already questioning where Thor lies in the MCU and if his story can go any more forward. But what's really interesting, going to this clip from Josh Horowitz on Happy Sad Confused podcast, is he talks about how in order for Thor to survive in the MCU and to keep in the audience's mind fresh, that they have to reinvent the character. And I've got another interesting clip to play after this, so stick around and watch this.
Where do you go with Thor at this point? I mean, here's the conundrum I feel like you're in. Like, after Taika, maybe Taika comes back or not, but like, what do you do if he doesn't come back? Like, would Thor go back to dramatic?
I think, I mean, you look at Thor 1 and 2, they were quite similar. Ragnarok, Love and Thunder, similar. I think it's about reinventing it.
Yeah.
And I think I've had such a unique opportunity, even with sort of, Infinity War and Endgame, to do very drastic things with the character. I enjoy that, I like keeping people on their toes, but it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me invested. And I've said this before, but when it becomes too familiar, I think there's a risk of getting lazy then, because I know what I'm doing,
Yeah. So, yeah, really interesting insight into what Chris Hemsworth is thinking for the future of Thor. And to be honest, I have to respect him for this opinion, because what he's great at is that he wants to develop the story and the characterization and not just do the same thing, as he's just said here. He doesn't want it to get too saturated. But in terms of that, the direct title saying he doesn't want to do Taika Waititi's Thor anymore. I think that's how you say his name, sorry. Sorry if I've pronounced it wrong, Mr. Taika. But he doesn't want to do the same thing as Ragnarok and Love and Thunder. Again, Ragnarok was a huge success when it first came out, but Love and Thunder had not been that well received by general audiences, as it was too Taika, basically. It was too much of Taika, and there's been rumours going around that Taika is no longer developing another Thor film. I'm not sure about a Marvel film. I think he might do another Marvel film, but just not Thor anymore. That I think they can take his sort of tone and his direction onto another project, a brand new project, definitely. So yeah, Chris basically saying he wants to reinvent the character. But what's really interesting is that Chris Hemsworth actually said the exact same thing or similar whilst promoting Thor Ragnarok with Taika here. This is an interview with Peter Travers, Popcorn with Peter Travers, and he said this in a few interviews during this press junket, but just take a listen, and it feels like deja vu.
I think both of us were, I was sick of me as his character, and so was Taika.
I was definitely sick of it.
That's why this movie is so funny.
And we both got together and said, let's just wreck everything and just redo it and
Let's
reinvent it.
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok it.
And reinvent it. And
That was so good. And so Marvel was so pleased with that idea.
well, no, but I'd played the character 6 times, I think, by this point, and I called Kevin Feige. I said, we've got to do something different here. We need a different director. We need, you know, and I loved every director I'd ever worked with, and every experience was a step to this. But it was like, now we got to reinvent it. We have an obligation to do it. And Taika came in and just said, yeah, there's so much room that you haven't explored. I'd been doing a bit of comedy in other films and wanted.
You
and I
have?
thought, this is fun. I want to do more of this. And he's made 3 of my favorite films, literally on my top.
So yeah, the interview basically goes on and talks about how amazing Taika is and how his bold new vision has completely changed how the Thor films are going to go forward. But it's interesting seeing someone like Chris Hemsworth, you know, the main star of Thor, playing the title character, is just completely absorbed in making sure this character isn't just doing the same thing every single movie, that every single movie isn't just the same story or same tone. It's really interesting to see his point of view of making sure to grow that character, and there's enough room to grow that character, and there's definitely a lot of directions you can take this character. A lot of people, obviously after hearing this news and possibly Taika no longer being involved, have really wanted Robert Eggers to do a Thor film. He will never do it because he said in the past he's not interested in Marvel films or doing that sort of thing as a project. But, you know, to be more grounded and more rough and like the Norse mythology, basically, you know, dirty, mucky, and, you know, really dark, basically, grim. So a lot of fans are hoping that. But for me, I don't know what direction you could take this character in. I'd like to keep to the tone it is at the moment, but just kind of squeeze that down a bit more. I think it was a bit too much for me in Love and Thunder. I was confused what I was watching, really. I knew it was a Taika film, and there was moments where I laughed, but there was always moments where I was like, eh. And I think that's not just down to Taika's direction. I think it's down to the limitations, because remember, they shot this during COVID, so I think there was only so much they could do and squeeze in, that they packed it too full, basically, and made it too Taika, basically. Too much of Taika's sort of essence. And but the success of Ragnarok proved to Kevin Feige to let the creatives do more, and I feel like Love and Thunder has made Feige pull out of that a little bit more, which is a shame, because with these Marvel films I really want to see more creatives coming in and putting their stamp on it and their vision, and I'm hoping we get this with the 5th Thor film if it ever happens, but we'll see where the character goes soon. Anyway, tell me what you think. Are you happy that Thor is going to be regenerated, if you like, Doctor Who Day? Are you looking forward to the future of Thor? Are you wanting to see this character more, or do you think it's time to put the hammer on the coffin and say goodbye to Thor very soon? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and may the Force be with you. It's the wrong film.